Okay, so here we are, starting the grading. Supposed to be done today. Had a lot of rain here in this part of Texas. I mean, it's been, it rains and then it starts to dry out. You think you can start, then all of a sudden we get more rain, and then back to square one, waiting again. You can't do this when it's too wet. It's a bit wet. I mean, we had maybe a half an inch the day before yesterday, so. He's working on a small low spot over here that had been holding water, and I was pushing the water out of the way. So, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, that should be done by the end of the day. I'm thinking 10 to 15 loads. I mean, we've already done 2 loads. Probably gonna be closer to 15. $170 a load, delivered, spread, everything. A little bit high, but this guy was able to come out right away to do it. I had another guy. He kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So it was a little cheaper, but the pit where they get the soil from, they call it a pit, where the clay comes from. We use a clay called Select Fill. Compact's really nice. This guy's pit is a little farther away, and of course, it's all about trucking costs when you're talking about soil, because the soil itself doesn't cost that much. I mean, I think these guys, when they go to the pit and buy the soil, they pay like $5 a yard. So the truck holds basically 12 yards. It's 12,000 pounds, but soil is about 1,000. So it's about a ton per cubic yard. So it's roughly 12 cubic yards, right? So they say they pay $60 or whatever they pay the pit, to get their truck filled. So then they're selling it for $170, and that's spread. So now they're bringing this piece of equipment here, and they're spreading it and compacting it, grading, pushing all this stuff out of the way and all that. So you're looking at $110, say $110, So it's not a lot of money, right? I mean, when you think of the cost of all this equipment to make this happen, the insurance and everything involved, the gas, all that. So that's why it's all about trucking costs. So the farther away the pit is from your job site, the more you pay per truckload. It's just the way it works. They charge you per truckload because they don't really know how many loads it's going to take. I mean, you can get a solid bid from them, but if you get a solid bid, they're gonna figure high, because they don't want to lose money because the profit margins are tight. So they're going to figure high, and most of the time you're going to end up paying more. For example, I mean, that's been my experience. So it's best to just say, okay, I'll just pay you, because they're not going to lie. They're just going to charge you per load, and that's it. Okay, so anyway, so that's what I find is the best way to do it. And then I tell them when to stop. I say, okay, that's enough soil. I just need the house pad up a little bit higher than the surrounding yard, and then the surrounding terrain, it's not a yard yet, terrain, and then maybe 6 inches higher, and then the concrete forms go on top of that. I use 2x8, so that's another 8 inches. So that brings your house up, off the that you can taper down when you do your finished grading. You can taper it down to the native, the height of the native around it, and get the water to drain away from the house. Now I do a raised foundation. In other words, I don't do a slab, but it'd be the same thing if you're doing a slab. But with a slab, then you're going up 12 inches, so you're good to go. So I'll bring this up about 6 inches higher than native. This is a pretty flat lot. If it wasn't a flat lot, then I would pick the highest point and go about 6 inches above that, right? You find out where the highest point is with the laser, and then go, okay, let's go 6 inches above that, and then whatever else it is on the other side. I mean, some lots slope a lot. You might be 2, 3, 4 feet high on the other side, or even more. It just depends. As a builder, when I'm building spec, I mean, I like to find the flatter lots, because number one, it gives you a nicer yard, and then the other thing is if when you go to sell the house, if you sell a house with an expensive yard that needs a lot of soil, maybe a retaining wall and all that, you're not going to get more money for the house because of that, but you're going to spend more getting the lot ready to put a house on it. So it's like throwing money in the garbage, right? So if it costs you $5,000-$6,000 worth of soil and grading, and then maybe even a retaining wall on top of that to make the yard buildable, to put a flat pad on top of it, building pad, then that versus like maybe this one that costs $2,000. I'm just using fake numbers, but just to give you an idea. Then you've lost $4,000 or $5,000 because when you go to sell that house, people aren't going to say, "Oh, well, he had to bring in more soil, so I'm going to pay more for the house." The house is worth what the market is bearing in that subdivision or that area. So it's lost money. So you have to think about that when you're buying a lot. There's a lot of, you go out lot hunting. Most real estate agents, I don't know, 90-some%, whatever, they don't know anything about lots. They don't know how to look at a lot. They don't know how to tell a prospective buyer, hey, this lot's going to cost you X amount of dollars. They either don't know or they don't care. Whatever the deal is. And that's been my, I've built in 4 different states. So that's been my experience in 4 different states. Mostly they don't know. They know about houses, but they don't know about lots. So you can find agents that do specialize in lots. But these are the things you got to look out for. You got to look at what's it going to cost me to get a house on that lot. What about utilities? How close are utilities? All that. So everything that's involved in getting the lot ready for building. Now, this isn't a subdivision, so obviously right behind here is the power. There's a temporary power pole here, but there's power here. There's water, there's sewer, and all that. But even if you're building in a subdivision, what's going to be the cost of getting that lot ready for to put a house on it? That's you got to think about that, especially when you're building for resale. But I mean, even if you're going to build for a house to live in, right? You don't want to waste a bunch of money prepping a lot if there's a better lot that maybe the lot costs a little more, or maybe it costs the same but it's much cheaper to build on because it doesn't require all this infrastructure work. Basically you're grading and like what I'm doing now. You could spend that on crown molding or appliances or tile or something that people actually care about and something you're going to enjoy, because you're not going to enjoy more loads of soil, right? So anyway, so that's something to think about. That's how builders look at it. Well, some builders, see guys have been building for years, and they'll go into a subdivision like this one, which has thousands of lots for sale. It's a huge subdivision. It's old, but it just never filled in because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere for a while. It's starting to fill in now a little bit, but there's still a couple thousand lots available in here yet. And I still see them buy lousy lots. I'm like, God, now why would he buy that lot when there's all these other nice lots? Like this one, for example. I got this lot for $3,500, and it's probably around 10,000 square feet. It's pretty big. It's wooded. I had to take some trees out, but not bad for a gated community, golf course, gated community, that sort of thing. So anyway, but I mean, they go for more. Some go for 10,000, some go for 12. I buy foreclosure lots, so I get them cheap. This is a tax foreclosure. It's old subdivision, so a lot of people bought lots many years ago. They buy them just for the golf privileges, because you get unlimited free golf when you own property in here. So they'll buy a lot just so they can golf for free. And then maybe they die off, or the subdivision was put in, I think, in the 70s. Started, and so anyway, yeah. So they'll buy these lots, and then maybe they die off, or the kids don't know they have it, or they don't want it, or whatever. So they just let it go. They just don't pay the property tax, and eventually the county forecloses on it. And then I get them really cheap. Sometimes I get them for $2,000 even. So, but anyway, yeah. So getting back to the original point, think about what you got to do. To get the lot buildable. Think about that in your cost, because that's cost that you're not going to appreciate. And also, if you have a really sloped lot, especially if you have kids, I mean, retaining walls are very expensive. I mean, extremely expensive. And then you don't have as nice of a lot if you got retaining walls and you got to step down, or it's really sloped, or whatever. So anyway, yeah. So that's stuff to think about. It's a little primer on buying lots. Looking at lots, you really gotta, and you can look at a lot, especially an inexperienced buyer or an agent, even experienced agent, but like I said, they don't really know a lot. Look at a lot, oh, that's pretty flat, and then they come to put the laser on it, and it slopes 3 feet. It's deceptive sometimes. Or they think, it's just got a tiny slope, and it ends up being 3 feet or 2 feet or whatever. That's a lot of extra loads of soil, for example. So that's another thing to think about. Now I can look at a lot and I just know. I mean, this lot has maybe at the most from this going this way, so from this side to this side, maybe a foot at the most. And this is, you know, from here all the way across me, you're looking at, you know, maybe 100 feet. So, but anyway, yeah, so it's not much of a drop. I'm just good at looking at lots. I got that eye, so I don't need to bring my laser out on a lot. If you have access to a laser, you can always bring it with you and check the lot, you know, before you buy it, so you know what you got to do to it. Anyway, so that's a little primer on lots. Okay, I'm gonna well, I'm not really getting back to work because I'm not doing anything. I'm just making sure they do what they're supposed to. Anyway, back to work. Oh, check out my channel too, because I got all kinds of videos on framing and trim and, you know, all the steps to building a house. So just check out my channel and, you know, subscribe if you want. Okay, back to work.